Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back. It's Mia, and today we are going to take a look at this story that's come out about DC and all the projects that are canceled, or maybe so canceled, maybe not canceled. And yeah, I don't know. Let's just dive right into this because I think we all know what's going on here, right? We've got James Gunn who's coming to take the helm creatively. We've got another partner who's come in to handle things financially. So as we all know, things are underway where James Gunn is kind of looking out and seeing what threads need to be snapped, what threads need to be put in place. And we've got some insight in that as of last night. So what I first want to do though is take a look at what James Gunn said, because he kind of sets the tone for this. He's like, well, let's just get into it. So James Gunn made this statement this afternoon, and he just says, so as for the story yesterday in the Hollywood Reporter, some of it is true, some of it is half true, some of it is not true. So that's just a warning going into this. And some of it we haven't decided yet whether it's true or not, which is interesting to say. Although this first month at DC has been fruitful, building the next 10 years of the story takes time, and we're still just beginning. Peter is his business partner, the chief financial officer, chose to helm DC Studios knowing we were coming into a fractious environment. Interesting. Both in the stories being told and in the audience itself, and there would be an unavoidable transitional period, as we moved into telling a cohesive story across film, TV, animation, and gaming. So it's interesting that he notes like this is kind of all encompassing, which I believe is kind of how Disney moved Kevin Feige into his role. They were like, yeah, okay, you can just be president of Marvel Studios and all the movies and Disney Plus shows that come out, but they've kind of escalated him to, I just believe, being the head of all Marvel creative in general, which is a hard job to do. So again, this is kind of a hats off to James Gunn because they're asking a lot from him, but again, maybe this is the type of job that you need if you want to continue to compete with Marvel and not repeat the past, basically. So he kind of wraps up saying, but in the end, the drawbacks of that transitional period were dwarfed by the creative possibilities and opportunity to build upon what has worked in DC so far and to help rectify what has not. I mean, duh. We know we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we can promise everything we do is done in service to the story, in all caps, and in service to the DC characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives. As for more answers about the future of the DCU, I will sadly have to ask you to wait. We are giving these characters and stories the time and attention they deserve, and we ourselves still have a lot more questions to ask and answers. I mean, to me, that's all fair. He's just getting in there, so give it time. Like I've been saying, this is going to take quite a long time to pan out, so I'm really like, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I want to know immediately. I want to know right now what's going to happen. And as we dig into this article, maybe, yes, we will know what's going to happen. But overall, speaking towards the quality of the DCU, as he's being so careful to say, I'll notice he'll tweet someone who has written, DCEU, and his response will be, he will have DCU in it, just that, so we're all clear. He's not really calling anybody out. I think he's just trying to, I guess, slowly but surely make sure we know that this is something completely different than what we've experienced in the last 10 plus years. So I want to get into this story now because I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. So I'm excited to dig into this with you all because, whew. So yeah, I think it goes without saying here. The big headline is Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 not moving forward as DC movies hit a turning point. This is exclusive. New DC Studios heads James Gunn and Peter Safran are in the final stages of prepping their multi-year plan ahead of next week's pivotal presentation to Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav. So they want to impress the big boss. Let's continue. Call it a DC Rebirth or DC Genesis. Maybe call it Identity Crisis or Flashpoint. Way to go, THR. These titles of past DC Comics event series aptly describe the state of Warner Brothers DC movies, which are on the cusp of a new era, but not before a potentially messy transition period. Yeah. A cleaning of the slate is common when a new executive team is put in place to run a studio or division, but there is likely little precedent for the amount of Clorox James Gunn and Peter Safran could spray as they prepare to launch DC Studios and guide superhero movies for the next half decade and beyond. This is some saucy writing. The duo in recent days. So this is setting up. This is the story. Here we go. The duo in recent days flew back to Los Angeles from the snowy city of Aspen, Colorado, where they were huddled in deep planning and now like holy figures coming down from the mountaintop have sets of commandments or a DC Bible in hand, or at least a working blueprint. Move over Zack Snyder. Gunn and Safran are expected to meet next week with David Zaslav, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO, who is radically reshaping the media company and who hired the duo in October. Wow, it was just October. Wow, that feels like decades ago now. To lead a newly launched film and TV division. The pair will unveil to Zaslav a plan that is expected to lay out their vision, although much of that plan, which insiders paint as a still work in progress, is said to be approved, is being kept deep in the Batcave. So, right, obviously, none of this is revealed, but we've got some leaks according to sources, which I believe, for the most part, because James Gunn says some of this is true, so we're going to have to keep our skeptics hat on. But I'm pretty sure that this big one here, they're reporting that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward, considered dead in its incarnation. I think that is a big truth. And let's get into why. Sources say that Jenkins recently submitted her treatment co-written with Jeff Johns, and that Gunn and Safran, as well as Warner Brothers Pictures co-chairs and CEOs, broke the news to the filmmaker, telling her that the project as it stood did not fit in with the new but still unfolding plans. Jenkins directed and co-wrote the previous two movies starring Gal Gadot and released 2017-2020. Decision had been made about the next steps. Yeah, what I will say is that I think James Gunn probably watched Wonder Woman 1984 and said, absolutely not. And I think I was gaslighting myself when I watched that movie because it was 2020 and it was probably like the first superhero movie I had seen in months. You know why? And so I was like excited to see that movie, but then the moment I started to think about it, I was like, no, this movie ain't that great. And so it had me wondering, especially when Star Wars signed on to have Patty Jenkins as a director. I was like, are you sure about that, Lucasfilm? Is that what we want? And so it's just been an odd series of events that, now it's looking like Wonder Woman 3 is canceled. On top of, we have heard absolutely nothing about the Patty Jenkins Star Wars movie. And that was the one out of, these 3-ish movies that they had been juggling with Taika and then with Michael Waldron and Kevin Feige. It was like, this was the one where it looked like they definitely had a big plan, because we had that whole thing where Patty Jenkins made a whole introduction video talking about it, Rogue Squadron, and she was talking about how personal it was to her. But now that movie, it's just been nothing but radio silence. So I'm wondering, I'm like, is there just something going on here where Patty Jenkins is not the creative director that she's, had panned out to be with Wonder Woman 1? And even that movie, I really didn't vibe with Wonder Woman, the first movie. I don't really know why it caught on the way it did. But here's the thing, and maybe I'll cut her some slack, is, maybe she is a good creative storyteller. Maybe it's just, kind of like if you'd seen my Glass Onion review. It's like Rian Johnson made 2 back-to-back hits with Knives Out and Glass Onion. Not so much with The Last Jedi. Say what you want about that movie, but again, maybe it just goes to show that some directors are creatively better going outside of this fandom genre, so to speak, than working within. So I'm not gonna miss Wonder Woman. I just haven't been with it as far as they've been any iteration of Wonder Woman in the DCEU. So, I mean, if they can make it stronger or bring her back later, under James Gunn supervision, but I'm not really shedding any tears. Yeah, this was kind of ironic too. They say it is unclear how any future Wonder Woman movie and Gadot's portrayal of the hero would fit into the new DC plan, but in a bit of head-scratching timing, Gadot tweeted out of the blue a thank you to fans Tuesday, saying she was grateful to be allowed to play the heroine and role model, adding, "Can't wait to share her new chapter with you," as in can't wait to share Wonder Woman's new chapter with you. It was unclear whether or not the actress knew the project was being toe tagged. This is just some brutal writing, by the way. So yeah, that was that tweet posted on the 6th. And she also shared it to Instagram. So I was like, just talk about things that aged poorly. So anyway, let's move on from Wonder Woman. Let's see what else THR says is going on. So the rest of the DC slate remains in flux, or at least is being kept deep in a pocket of Gunn's own utility belt, but there are several rumors and possible scenarios to consider. So first, which builds on shuttering of Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3, is closing the curtain of the Snyderverse. Sayonara. And the heroes cast by filmmaker Zack Snyder for his Justice League. This one sees the shutting down of Man of Steel 2 with a returning Henry Cavill and having no more Aquaman from Jason Momoa. I shouldn't be laughing, but you know how I feel about the Snyderverse. I don't think any real piece of it came out the way that it should have, and so maybe it really is just the weeding out of all of it. It's just how we have to go, and which is weird because I liked Aquaman when I saw it in theaters. I watched it again this year, and it was something else. And I mean, I just expressed my thoughts about Henry Cavill after seeing him in Shazam. I was like, do we really have to do this to him? Please, I just let him be Sherlock Holmes. So, to me, this is like good news. This is dancing in the street. I love these actors. I love Jason Momoa. I love Henry Cavill, and I love Ben Affleck. So maybe it's just out of the goodness of my heart, they need a lot better treatment, and it won't be found even returning back to the DC universe. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe there is a way for it to work out with them, but I think we need a clean slate at this rate. Anyway, these characters are to cameo in Flash, the highly anticipated time travel adventure movie that is due to release June 16th, which I believe that just got moved up. Cavill shot his part of the cameo in September, but sources say there's a debate inside the studio as whether or not to keep the cameo, and if its inclusion promises something that studio would have no plans on delivering. Cut it. Just cut it. Don't even bother. A Warner insider cautions that no plans have been finalized and that Flash remains an unlocked picture. Cavill's situation is more than a little thorny as the actor made a cameo in Black Adam. The Monday after the movie opened, Cavill posted a video to Instagram where he announced, "I want to make it official." Yeah, we talked about that. And at the time, it was not incorrect. That was before Gunn, began planning. Also unlikely is a sequel to Black Adam. The movie had only grossed $385 million worldwide. And insiders at the studio say the movie, which cost more than $190 to produce, or that as well, will be lucky to break even considering the revenue. Which is kind of weird because then we had The Rock, who was tweeting out, I don't know if you want to call it fake news, but okay, here we go. The Rock tweeted, "Wait to confirm before I share this excellent Black Adam news. Our film will profit between 52 to 72 million. Fact." Is it a fact though? You know what's bad when the lead actor is comparing film budgets to justify it not doing that well. Yeah, it's good that he was in the movie. It's good that he enjoyed being in the movie, but we gotta really lay out the facts here. I'm sorry. THR is saying they will be lucky to break even, so we've almost reached the end here, but this is interesting. Momoa, meanwhile, could emerge as a pivotal figure in the new plans, according to several sources. In one scenario, the actor could wrap up his days as an underwater hero, Arthur Curry, and Aquaman 2, which would be the final movie release that was made by the previous regime, but it would not spell the end of the actor's involvement with the DCU. The character of Lobo, a foul-mouthed, cigar-chomping intergalactic bounty hunter, has been mentioned in connection with Momoa. So yeah, that's interesting, specifically because we've seen a lot of characters like double dipping in the MCU, right? With Chris Evans being both the Human Torch and then coming back a couple of years later to be Captain America. And then even like Gemma Chan, who was in Captain Marvel, had a throwaway role, but still some screen time, and then coming back to play, that character in the Eternals who had the lead role, whose name that I can't think of because I don't want to deal with that movie anymore. But so it is interesting to think that he could kind of just come back, Momoa, and do another role like that. I feel like because Aquaman though was just so all up in your face for the DCEU and his movies in Justice League, seems kind of weird to recast him and so quickly as well, but anything is possible. So maybe I'd be open to that if they treat him better, because I like Jason Momoa. I just don't. Not a fan of what he had been in so far. All right, as we wrap up here, part of the plan can entail a truly fresh start and having no baggage from any previous regimes as they set about resetting DC movies and shows that are made. However, it does not take into account the possible success movies like Shazam 2 and now we've got Blue Beetle. Would that plan include forging ahead without the actors who inhabit those characters and recast them, even if those movies prove to be box office hits? Ooh, see, now that's the whole thing with like Marvel with X-Men, right? What do we, X-Men, just the one X-Men, no, X-Men, like what do we do with all these characters you guys like? Multiverse. That's an easy, you know, easy plan right there. So anyway, observers are convinced the plan calls for interconnected story universe, and there is rumblings of the establishment of a creative brain trust. The brain trust may be already rolling in some capacity. Sources say that Safran had in recent weeks been meeting with writers at his LA home in an effort to hone the presentation, gathering feedback and ideas for the plan. So here's the good news. One part that the Gunn Safran agenda seems likely not to touch, at least for now, is the Matt Reeves Batman universe, in which Robert Pattinson dons the cowl of the Cape Crusader. Reeves is writing the sequel to the Batman, which opened March 4th. The filmmaker is also overseeing the launch of 2 Batman series that spin out of the movie, including The Penguin. So that wraps up that, and well, there's a lot of interesting information in this article, and you know, for the DCEU. And I know I might have sounded a little harsh coming here. I don't usually like to seem harsh or mocking. It's just that DC movies have not really been my favorite, guys, except for some of the new stuff, which I said had either come from James Gunn or was Matt Reeves the Batman. So this is exciting for me to see that we could potentially get some really, really good storytelling going on in the DCU and just having things feel fresh, because I do think it really has to be out with the old, in with the new. If we have sort of any stragglers or any thread from that previous universe, it's probably gonna pull it down. So I think this just needs to be the parting of ways with all of those movies. Just in this chapter, begin a new one, nice and fresh, and we shall see where this new era of DC storytelling goes. So I've said enough. I think I'm gonna leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think about this. Are you sad that Wonder Woman probably won't be getting a 3rd movie, or is this a very welcomed announcement? I'm interested to know your thoughts, so let me know. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this discussion. It will help all the other superhero fans come to this discussion and discuss it with us, which would be so fun, wouldn't it? And subscribe for more, because like I said, we'll be talking about this for as long as we can. 1,000 years of DC discussion. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.